Just light bulb moment on the High on Health podcast.
Boom. So yeah, this is it. We are live. This is High on Health. Who are we? What we're about? What's the reasons for getting together and getting on camera? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know what drove us to insanity to get together on a Sunday as well as during the week, but here we are.
I know. We spend a lot of time with each other. When I told my missus that I was going to go and do a podcast with you guys, you're like, are you not fed up of just speaking to each other every single day of your life? You want to go and lock yourself in a room for a few hours and talk about life some more? And
Yeah, it was quite funny. Jamie over there, shout out to Jamie.
big up Jamie. Can't see my camera.
Jamie was saying, you know, one thing that we need to map out today as well, like, just be careful of is speaking over each other. And I looked at Niall, I was like, you know, I think we've actually spent enough time trying to perfect that art over the last couple of years, not speaking over each other, but probably be up in flames today.
Nice.
It was a beautiful journey, being able to learn how to not speak over each other, and those periods of times where we used to say, "Sorry, I'm really sorry."
Let me interrupt. But I
Are
think,
you really though?
Are you?
Really? Are you really?
Really sorry.
Oh yeah, that too. But yeah, are we really here?
Are we ready?
Yeah, so, let's roll.
So,
Let's roll with it.
boys, what I think is really beautiful about what we're doing today is we're working in an industry where we have the opportunity to help so many people, but if we actually take a moment to have a look at who is in the industry and the relationship we have with the patients, there really isn't that many CEOs or many business owners who have actually come forward and put themselves in the public eye and just opened up about everything that we've been through to get to where we are, what we're here to do, how we're going to continue to get better at what we do. So I think what we're about to do here now is just open up and give everybody sort of a behind the scenes look at why we are doing what we're doing at the end of the day. And I'm very excited to sit here with my boys. Shout out to Gabriel and Niall. We've been through hell and back, and now we're sat in this room with Jamie. But actually, his name's not actually Jamie. His name's Ed. His name's Ed. And I just have to say I'm very grateful to be here with you boys, and I look forward to this chat. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but maybe it's nice to start at the beginning, you know? Because to be honest, I came into the picture maybe a few years after you guys met each other, right? So maybe start when you boys met each other, the first time that you met each other, and also maybe an introduction. Should we introduce ourselves?
I mean, probably should do. But yeah, I think that's a really beautiful place to start. But definitely, like, as we move forward, I think there's a load of different topics and subjects that we want to start discussing and bringing guests onto the show to give their perspective, because you know, we want it to be kind of a thought-provoking session where we sit here and we, you know, open our minds and open everyone else's minds about how far you can push things if you're deluded and just relentless. I think that's pretty much where we got to, and you just keep on going and going and going. But yeah, we're definitely starting a little roundup. But it's weird actually, because on the way here, you know, we're sitting here and goes, what are we going to talk about, these types of things? And yeah, on that point, I remember, you know, Nigel and I, we've known each other for a long, long time. Nearly 15 years now, over 15 years. And we were always saying, at some point, we're going to work together. But it was never, what were we going to do? And, you know, it was always, obviously, you know, Nigel's involved in property and doing his thing. And it was like, it was always going to be in some dimension. And as we sit here now, I do actually often quite pinch myself that, well, we're involved in the cannabis industry and we're doing a lot of groundbreaking things here in the UK. And yeah, we're going to keep pushing, keep helping people and helping each other, because I think that's a very unique thing that we have. And we speak to a lot of people that are around us, and they all just say how they're just killed to have, you know, their good friends by their side. Because I just think it gives us a definite advantage. We've got sounding boards that, you know, it goes beyond just business, and that is a really special thing to have. So yeah, very much like yourself, Coobs. Very grateful to be here. Grateful to have us all here. Thank you very much, Ed, for taking some time out on your Sunday.
I thought it was Jamie.
Listen, I'm down to do it. I just think you've got to give him some real shout outs as well. But yeah, obviously it'd be cool. I think Niall, just give us a little thing about how you're feeling. Then I think we should do some intros on who we are and what we're about. And
Absolutely.
yeah, pleasure to be here.
Yeah, ditto what these gentlemen have said. Very grateful to be here. How it all started was, you know, to touch on that, I suppose. Actually very close with Gabriel's brother. We all are. And
shout out Ollie Newman.
Yeah, shout out Ollie Newman. And when Ollie went off to university, I befriended Gabriel, the younger brother, and spent a lot of time going to the gym.
There was always a reason why we went to the gym, just get out of the house. But yeah.
And yeah, it was beautiful. As you know, Gabriel says, definitely do pinch myself that we're here doing what we're doing, pushing to try and help patients, but also grow ourselves. We're learning. We're every day we come in and we're not experts, and we're not experts at doing anything. And I love that that mindset that we are just here to grow and to learn, and hopefully push the industry into a better place for not just cannabis but all alternative therapies that have a place in healthcare to hopefully improve people's lives.
Mate, love that. Tell the people a bit about, because you've always been an entrepreneurial type of guy, right? When I first met you, I remember suited and booted, dressed to the nines, absolute militant mindset, and I kind of met you when must have been about 20, maybe no, a little bit younger than 20,
18, 19.
Yeah, so yeah, about 18, 19, true, because then I moved back to Spain. But at that time when I'd met you, I remember looking at you guy and I was like, wow, for such a young guy, you're so well put together. And I was very impressed by how you sort of had this energy and aura about you, and everybody looked at you like, okay, this guy is really on stuff. Nearly swore then. Did well. Did well. And what made you that type of person from a young age to be able to just go out there and have the mindset of doing it for yourself, right? Because it's not easy, especially in this day and age when you have so many different distractions, how to put yourself down and discipline yourself, and also have that sort of charisma and that energy that captivated people to want to follow in your footsteps as well. Because I, for one, I remember seeing you like, yeah, I like what this guy's about. I didn't know anything about you. I just remember seeing you at the pub when we all met at that time. We can come back to that story, and I just thought, okay, wow, this is someone who's young, but they've got themselves together. So what was it about how you grew up, or where you grew up, or what you did that got you into that type of mindset of, okay, I need to go out and do this for myself, because at the end of the day, no one else is going to help me?
I think it's all about environment, right? My mum, big shout out to my mother.
Big up Judith.
Big up Judith. She brought us up in a little bit of a unique environment where we were living with our grandparents for most of my life. And I think when that really gave me a perspective of living with my grandparents who they always worked. My grandfather worked probably until literally the day before he passed away, and having those role models around me from such a young age, I think just gave me a little bit of a different perspective where I had to be out there and I had to work, and that's all I really wanted to do, really. Never wanted to be in school. Was never any good at school, and from a very young age I always kind of felt a lot more comfortable in a working environment, which gave me the resources to do what I wanted to do without having to go to my parents. And I think that was really where it all started for me anyway. But I remember yourself, bro, when you came over from Spain, I was this guy, so much charisma, so wow, I could talk to anyone in a room and just blow things apart. And it's I think all of us have brought such a different energy and different perspective that ultimately whoever we've met in our journey we've all been able to build a relationship that no one's ever really been able to touch that. And if it wasn't yourself, Josh, who's built the relationship, it was Gabriel, and if it wasn't me, that was really quite a unique experience. I don't know where I'm going with this.
Nah, I love it, mate.
I think you're spot on. I think, at the end of the day, when we look at how it really all formed, back in the end of 2019, and, obviously Josh and I were gunning for, some involvement in the cannabis industry, and I'm sure we can touch into how we got there. And it was kind of like once you came into that kind of fold, everything started to take some traction. I think, we talk about it all the time, that kind of triangle that you have, and obviously it's the strongest shape in terms of the ability to break it down. And it makes sense, because at the end of the day, when you've got different people bringing different perspectives, and might have two of us that might have agreed, but that third one will always challenge it, and how are we going to push each other further? And there's definitely a lot of truth behind it. And, we could see that, the dynamic changed. And I think, Cubes touched on it. I think your relentless work ethic definitely rubbed off on both of us. It gave us an extra perspective. And, I think all in all, it's that kind of that situation where, the more that you have to keep pushing you, to keep challenging you. It comes out to that relentless energy. And there are days where I certainly feel it. I'm sure you boys are the same, where I just don't have it. But then I know that, excuse me, I know that one of you boys will, come to the fold and step up. And it is one of those situations where I do seek a lot of comfort in that, knowing that, at all times, one of us has got to be firing on all cylinders, right? That's always a good thing. But I think also it'd be worthwhile, shouting out to Benji as well, Joshua's cousin, who again gave us a completely different dynamic as well. And that's the key thing. You just can't have too many people that just bring the same things to the table. And now, like when we look to expand the team, we're looking for people that have skill sets that are the polar opposites to what we have. Because again, we're out there, trying to build a team that does elevate us and elevate the industry as a whole. I think there's so many gaps with where it is today, and you look at these other kind of global cannabis markets, and the UK is a long way behind. I think we've got some exciting plans about how we can really push the industry further in the next couple of years, and I think patients will reap the rewards from that. But I also hope that between us we can also inspire some of the other groups out there to really understand that the cannabis community is bigger than just relentless business. There's a wider objective here in what we're trying to do here, and we always talk about it all the time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. There's a long way to go, and cannabis is built on collaboration. It's built on community, and we need to echo that within the industry. Otherwise, it's going to continuously struggle to evolve. We've all got a job to do here.
100%. Now, and we're live again. Thank you for the break. You'll notice Gabriel all of a sudden has a hoodie on.
It's golden here.
Feel like that scene in Wolf of Wall Street where they bring the accountants in just to get them to do the job quicker.
Yeah, either we put it on or they want us out of here.
Yeah. We're not leaving.
Oh, okay. You took the words out of my mouth, but I was going to swear, so I'm glad you said it.
I guess let's just dive straight back into where we were going with this. I think what Niall was talking about, the intentions that we have and the reasons why we do what we do. And I guess we should just take it back to the beginning when I guess I'd moved back to England 2017. I moved back to England 2017, and we were all living in a house together in Cricklewood, Grattan Terrace, 24, Cricklewood. Gabriel, Niall, myself, Gabriel's brother Ollie, Lucci was in there at one point.
Gian.
Yeah,
Pappy Luch.
Yeah, Pappy Luch. Peta was in there. Pistol Pete.
You're making it sound like it was like a crazy. It was all at different times. Just need to stress it.
We weren't bunk bedding.
Sleeping tops and tails.
I mean, sometimes, but so and at that time, I was working with my brother, and you were working with your old man, and you were working in property, right? You were doing your thing, working independently with your boys on the property side of things, but I think for me, where the shift really happened, I mean, look, we can go back into why we had a passion for cannabis anyway from an early age. I think we can get into that a little bit.
Some more passionate than others, but
yeah, exactly. So to start, for me, where it personally switched in my head, I remember I was playing football. I was playing an away day, a football match for the Levers boys, and I'd met this American guy out there. You remember?
Yeah,
I can't remember his name now. Oh, what was his name? He was a cool boy as well. He was a cool guy.
He was alright.
Yeah, he was from Cali, but I can't remember his name. Dan. I think his name was Dan.
Dan,
Hemp
hydrate.
Hemp hydrate.
Hemp hydrate. He was a chief evangelist.
Yeah, the chief evangelist for hemp hydrate. Anyway, I remember because Anthony Joshua was fighting that night. Because we came back to Zaki's house to watch Anthony Joshua. Yeah, at Nikki's house, sorry, to watch Anthony Joshua. So anyway, I remember like we were getting the train back and he pulled out this bottle of water, and he was like, this is CBD water, this is the future. And I remember he gave the bottle a little spin and it swirled around and made a little hurricane shape. And he was like, yeah, that's the CBD being activated. And I didn't know at the time what any of it meant. It just looked really cool, this bottle of water that was just spinning around. I was like, okay, you have to come and meet my boys. I brought him straight back to Nikki's house, and we sat down and we were like, boys, we should definitely bring
Yeah,
CBD water to the UK.
But remember, we were already looking for a cannabis product by that point. So we were looking at like the extraction, like there was a couple of those cool machines. So you and I had already looked at each other and gone, I don't know what we're going to do, but I don't like what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And something's got to change. And I would say at that point, end of 2018, medical cannabis had been legalized for medical purposes here in the UK.
Exactly.
Really still very unknown, but it was the time where CBD products were popping up everywhere. It was one of those things. It was becoming a hot new craze. And we were out there looking for products that, we think would make sense, launching it into the UK retail space because that was all we knew.
And I just want to highlight on that point as well, none of us had been to university, right? We hadn't had any specific higher education. But one thing that bound us all together was just the sheer desire and aspiration to go and learn and grow and do something better than what we had already, right? And I think it was that coming together because right now we know that the Reddit communities and stuff in this industry are quite rife. And I've seen, you can't get into the medical cannabis space unless you know someone in the government, unless you're super well funded, you come from rich aristocrats. And it was the complete opposite for us, we just had the will and, ethic to just sit in front of the computer and just search what needed to be searched in order to do it. But anyway, don't want to get carried away on that side of things. It was a case of, we had no PhDs, we hadn't been to university, we had no specific degree in the medical field. So how were we, some boys who had grown up, relatively, together, not really been in any higher education, how are we going to be able to get into the medical framework or into the cannabis framework? And it was at that point, we realized, okay, what do we love? Well, we're all pretty much into our health, into our fitness, and we were all drinking these ginger shots at the time, trying to get into the anti-inflammatory juices, etc. And we realized that there was actually no health CBD beverages in the market at that time. And we really wanted to bring together CBD, which was still considered cannabis and still had its misconceptions about what it was used for. And we thought, okay, if we can combine a health shot with CBD and make the first CBD shot, that would be something that would still allow us to be our creative selves, right? Still go out, meet people, socialize, network, try and meet different types of people in different areas, because at the end of the day, that's what got us to where we were in the first place, being able to just put ourselves in an uncomfortable situation and trying to find ourselves, trying to find our feet, learn to float. And I remember we were researching what we were going to do. So we must have researched, hundreds of ingredients, what worked with CBD, what people liked as tastes. And just take us back to a little bit from your perspective, Gabriel, when we'd sat down and, we'd all looked at each other and we were, okay, let's make a CBD health shot. What was going through your mind at the time and how you decided, or how we all thought we were going to now make our step into the medical framework and leave behind our family, leave behind the jobs that we had, and go out on a limb where we had zero security. Everybody was telling us, no, you're crazy, stick with the job, times are hard right now, you need to earn a salary. What was going through your mind at the time for us to actually go and take that next step? Because it was very risky.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, that's what it's all about there. I think if you sit around debating whether it's a good idea or not too much, you'll end up probably scaring yourself out of it. But I think also, I suppose, in those early days, I do remember a lot of people around us saying, how are you going to try and compete with the likes of Pepsi and all of these types of things? And that really wasn't at the forefront of our mind. It was, what can we do to raise awareness? We knew that cannabis was an industry that we wanted to be involved in. It was one of these things where, again, it comes down to what I said before. There was a little bit of delusion, right? It was like, because at the end of the day, but it comes from genuine passion, right? We knew that that's what we wanted to do. So it was, by any means necessary. And at the time, I still think it's, something where, it is a good product, and it is ways that, again, we still love health shots. We probably make them ourselves now in the office, but, we're still in a way that, at the end of the day, nowadays it's about what can you do to live a better lifestyle. And that was a kind of a perfect kind of intersecting product that still have got a lot of love for. But I remember those tough conversations where we all sat around and said, guys, we can't do it all, and where is our focus? And what little money we had at the time, where is that best placed?
Mm.
And it's one of these things where, we made those hard decisions. But yeah, I mean, I still think back all the times where people told us that what we were doing was crazy, and go get a real job. I do remember that kind of, coming out, and and even when I look back now, honestly, it feels just so long ago. It's been a long, hard 4 years, but a very rewarding 4 years. I think everyone can agree that, having those moments to, I think, as always, we are running at such a fast pace, all the time. We never do get the chance to sit back and just kind of take it all in and think about different parts of this journey, which is what's going to be exciting about, what we're doing here, and just sitting here and reminiscing on tough times, good times, tears of joy, tears of pain, because that's really what it's all about, and it is that journey. It's never going to be a constant rise. It's always ups and downs, and we always have that analogy of the roller coaster, and we're strapped in, and it's there's nothing you can do, right? You just got to ride it out, and but again, wouldn't have it any other way. But I do think that just putting ourselves in that situation of surrounding ourselves with the industry, and when we're flying around to all those different cannabis events and cannabis conferences, and just networking, because that's what we were good at the end of the day.
But let's take it back then, because I love what you're saying there. It's right. We get to reminisce now, and when I'm sitting here thinking about it, those defining moments, I just want to take it back to the lead up of when we actually launched the drink into the market, because there was a series of 4 or 5 really life-changing events that took place with all of us individually, that naturally, and it's like a ball of energy just pulling us all together at that time. But okay, so it was like October 2018, I believe, and we were just about to launch the drink. The drink was probably geared up to be launched in January, February of 2019, and we'd gone through that whole process. We'd been down to Brighton to do all of the different taste testings for the drinks and manufacturing the drinks, and we had to find someone to buy CBD from, because there wasn't really anyone to buy CBD, and we found this company out in France who charged us an absolute fortune, when we look back now, and we didn't really know what we were doing. But so just before that launch, though, we'd gone through the branding exercises, we'd gone through the different designs, and I remember, for me, I got a phone call from my mum, and she told me that my dad has had a heart attack and I need to come out to Spain. And it was all at the moment where we were gearing up to launch, and I thought, it was just me and you working from the kitchen at the time, right? And there's a beautiful moment when Niall comes in and pulls us all together like glue would, and we'll get to there. And I had to fly back to Spain to go and be with my dad and my family at the time, and literally the day I was on the plane to fly out there, my grandma died. So my mum had to fly to Scotland to go and sort out her family affairs, because she didn't come from a big family. There wasn't too many people there. So now it was just me, my little brother, and my dad, looking after someone who's just had a heart attack. And, you sit there, and that's when all of a sudden you start realizing your own mortality in those instances, right? We read a beautiful quote. It was something along the lines of, you truly become a man when you lose both of your parents. And it was going out there and thinking, oh God, life is so short. Seeing this, there's actually no way I can go back to the UK now and not give absolutely everything, and been out there for a month, flew back to the UK. We were living partly at Gabriel's house in Battersea at the time, and we were just about to launch the drinks, and we'd done all of the research. The drinks was ready, and then I remember, you telling me that your parents were about to go through a divorce, and how that was going to, affect us and what we had to go through. So it was an accumulation of that, and then, okay, the uncertainty within the family. But again, still looked at each other, said, pay it no mind, blinkers on, just focus. And I just want to really take it back to another changing moment within that sort of month and a half cycle, which just threw all sorts of spanners in the works. But I'll never forget, I remember picking you up outside your house one day, early beginning of the year 2019, and I remember you got in the car and you sat next to me, and you just, head was looking straight, and I could tell your face was all blushed, and you just turned around to me and you looked at me and you said, Albie's got cancer, it's your little brother. And we just looked at each other, and there was tears. And I just remember seeing you, and all I had in my head at the moment, I don't know what was going through your head, but all I had in my head was like, this is my boy, this is my fucking brother right here, and this is going to be a huge defining moment for us. I need to show him as much support as possible that we're going to get through this, because at that moment in time, everything almost feels completely insignificant. What you were worried about that you were going to wear, what you're going to do, who you're chatting to, all of it was just a complete wash. And it was like time froze in that moment in that car. I remember we just leant over to each other head to head, and we said, if we can get through this, and we will get through this, there's nothing in this life that we cannot achieve. And it was an accumulation of all those things that came up here, and it was a realization how important resilience was, and how important teamwork was going to be, and that brotherhood that we established from a young age with each other. And you know, I sit back and I think, you know, if we didn't have each other, how important it was for us to be able to go forward and achieve the things that we've done, or at least just stick together. Not saying that we've even achieved anything, but the fact that we've had each other there. So after that moment, you know, Albie was then put into UCLH, right? And he was in the child's ward. And I remember, okay, we didn't really have an office to work from either, right? So we went and decided we were going to work from the UCLH, right? And we were going to work in the child's ward. Now, I don't know how much you can see on camera about how big Gabriel is, but he's not a small fellow, right? He's not exactly a small guy. And I remember going into the child's area, and as you can imagine, the furniture was not like what we see in here. The furniture was these tiny little Play-Doh chairs and these little plastic areas, and there was just crayons everywhere. And we had our little laptops, and Gabriel was up with his knees like this on the chair. We were trying to work and get things done. And it hadn't been too long that we'd been in there, and we were talking about our drink because we were trying to launch the drink, right? We were going through the CBD process, and this guy came up to us and he said, "Are you talking about cannabis?" And it was in that moment, because you don't really know what to say, right? You know, it's still a little bit of a taboo subject. And anyway, we were like, yeah, you know, we are talking about cannabis. And he said, okay, well, you know, that's my son over there, and he suffers from cancer. And I myself had testicular cancer. About 10 years ago, I grew cannabis for myself, and I gave myself cannabis. And what did he say? He said he nuked the cannabis nuked the cancer from his testicles. He had testicular cancer, and if we were interested, you know, he could help provide some cannabis to us. And you know, I don't know if we're even allowed to say this, but we're going to say it anyway, and we'll cut it out if we're not. You know?
Just cut out how old Albie was. That's it. That's my little brother. That'll be all right.
But, you know, all jokes aside, you can say what you want, right? But we were going in and we were seeing Albie there, and we'd all gone and shaved all our heads off at Steph's Barbers. Shout out Steph.
He came to the hospital.
Yeah, exactly. We did.
That was a good one.
Yeah, and we all shaved our heads, and we met Musa Sissoko, on the way there, back when he was playing for Spurs, which was quite jokes. And yeah, we'd been working inside this hospital for weeks and weeks at the time while Albie was going through his chemotherapy treatment, and this guy had offered us cannabis, and we were thinking about doing it anyway. And I remember it was like, look, we actually have nothing to lose at this moment in time. There really is no rules in this. All cards are on the table. We have to give absolutely everything you can. And I think when you're put in that moment of desperation, that fight or flight, you end up realizing how important family bond has been. And if I could put anything down to the reason we are where we are right now, it's because of that family bond that we've had with each other. And because of those defining moments, I don't think anything will ever get between us in those instances. Not money, not success, not anything. You know, for us, the most important thing has always been that unity, having each other's backs, knowing that whatever happens, morning, noon or night, there is someone who will be there for us, vice versa. So anyway, we were sat in that room. The guy offered us the cannabis. We said, yeah. And I remember he dropped off the syringes to us, and we'd bought these little capsules off Amazon. And Albie was talking through the treatment that he was going on and off, and when he was at home, because I don't want to say all of the story.
It's crazy, to be honest.
We were all there.
Here, just like going through it all, and it really was just a whirlwind time. But at the end of the day, I think where you were getting to it is absolutely spot on. And I think it is all about brotherhood. And obviously, Nigel and I have been hanging around for years, and we'd always had a really close-knit circle around us, and it was always there was kind of a core of 5 or 6 boys that we knew that regardless of what happened, drop of a hat. If something's going down,
Mm.
we're there to support them in whatever way it would need it. But yeah, it was. I just remember when we were sitting there talking about those nights when we all went to spend that whole night, where we got all the boys to come around and go play games in the games room. Where when Albie was there having chemo throughout the night one weekend.
Yeah.
But
The
yeah,
Switch, that was it.
yeah, we bought the Switch. We all played games, and I think that I think we were screaming the whole ward down at that point. On the different games. I do just remember Albie just saying, thank you for us for going to hang out with him. It was a really beautiful evening. But yeah, I mean, Albie was, he was going through, he had 14 bouts of chemotherapy at the end, if you remember. It was a long, grueling, so it was, every other week. So that would have been a 28-week period of chemotherapy alone. And then, of course, we had that whole craziness with, where's he going to have, his proton beam therapy? Is it going to be Jacksonville, Florida, or is it going to be Manchester? Because at the time there was only 2 places in the world that could offer that kind of treatment. Proton beam therapy is, destroying the cancer or the tumor on a molecular level. And so there was 2 places, and we were very fortunate at the time. I think you both remember that we managed to draw Manchester, so people could still go visit him while I was having those therapies. And then come the end of his treatment, the scapulectomy, which was at Bushy, I think he was somewhere up there. So that was all close to home for all of us to be able to go spend that time with him. But yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago, but I do think it's something that we've all used as fuel to the fire, because it was just a crazy. And there's no such thing as pure coincidence, right? I mean, it's just impossible. For being in that situation. I remember when you asked the question, you talking about cannabis, and we're in a children's cancer ward. Do we say that we're talking about cannabis? But you could see it was it was genuine interest, and I think that was something that you can gauge how certain things are asked, and it was definitely something where it was an interest to talk about it, and once, as you say, Cubes at that point, what's there to lose? We'd seen him go from class president and a boisterous teenager at the time, to someone going through chemotherapy. And, we all know what that looks like. It's a scary thing to see, especially when it's your blood. And I know that again, for all of us, it's whether it's my brother, your brother, wherever it is, it's all family at the end of the day. And there was nothing to lose. And I think it was just remarkable to see. I remember those days where I'd spend a week in the hospital, so obviously we didn't want to get involved in the treatment plan at that point. And you all know I come from a family of doctors and dentists, so they were all pretty keen to make sure that we just listened to the doctors. But I think we were, I think this day and age, there's enough out there to suggest that that cannabis can help through chemotherapy, and we saw it, firsthand. In terms of just mood and energy. And, they say that, when you're going through chemotherapy, you have good days and you have bad days. And that's true in life as well. At the end of the day, you can't be, constantly firing all cylinders. But I suppose it's just accentuated when you see the colours of the liquids that are, being pumped into people going through chemotherapy. You just think, hang on a second, look at the colour of that. And we're talking about something that grows out of the ground, something that has been here for thousands of years, that isn't made in a lab. And they say that everything that grows out of the ground has a purpose and has a use, and I think we're starting to see now that cannabis has many different purposes and many potential uses, and it was amazing to see. I think looking back at that time when we were sitting around and he was stuffing his face with junk food and we were watching Jackass and we were just rolling around crying with laughter, those types of moments, they're incredibly rare when you're going through such a grueling, long, hard fight. At the end of the day, you wouldn't wish that on your worst enemies, to go through that kind of pain and that kind of suffering, and it comes down to endurance. But I think we'd learned from a few of different past traumas that we've all had in our lives, that at the end of the day, it's just yet another fight. At the end of the day, it's something that you just put your armor on and you go again. And as always, it's about unity in those moments. So it was a crazy time to think back on. And again, I'm a little bit emotional sitting here thinking about it, because we haven't. Again, you don't sit down and think about it that often. And I know that probably some other people think about it a lot more than I do. And one thing I always think that I'd love to kind of dive into to where Albie's at in this whole process. I think that's something that you don't don't often think, because obviously you know, we sit here and you know he's made full recoveries in remission. Of course, he's wearing some battle scars, but you know, wear them as a badge rather than a burden. But you know, often you think these things happen and okay, he's fine and that's it. But you know, at the end of the day, we know that trauma is a serious thing and something that you know always need to be working on and working through, because it doesn't just go away. You know, it's something that you really need to keep putting the effort in to make sure that you're managing those emotions. But yeah, all in all, brought us closer together again. And as you say, my parents had literally just got divorced 2 months before we found that out. And I remember we were like, okay, what are we gonna do now?
What next?
Straight away, just got to move back in with Mumsy and help her out. And that was, you know, that was a beautiful time. And
obviously Niall came in and helped put the house together and brought the builders in, and that was again another way to bring that unity together. I guess just the constant having each other to support in every fashion. And the one thing I will just say about seeing Albie was, you know, 1 week you see him strapped to a hospital bed, all sorts of tubes coming in and out of his body, and you know, him trying to keep a happy face on, and knowing behind closed doors the whole family's freaking out and they're in disarray, and they're trying to put on a brave face, right? Because they don't want to show that they have no idea what's about to happen, and they are just as scared, if not more scared, than Albie. And then to have him back at your house on his weeks off, laughing and joking and taking the piss out of our haircuts. Geezer, you were bald, you know, right? And those small moments were what helped us maintain that drive and that focus. And I like what you said there about having armor on and just strapping up and going again. And you know, then we'd launched the drinks, right? And we were driving around with the drinks in the boots of the car, like trying to sell them into every health store possible, going in, dropping in boxes.
Come to think of it, I probably think why some people didn't want to buy them, because we were skinheads running around. Maybe might have been a little bit of a daunting thing. A couple of skinheads coming in saying, "Do you want to buy some health shots?" Not your average sales reps, that's for sure. But yeah, it was all beautiful moments.
So okay, this is where, because Niall was always there, right? You know, it's not like we were doing the drinks. Niall was always there, and this beautiful moment when Niall managed to come in and bring this all round full circle, right? Because Gabriel and I will tell you there was always something missing, right? We were there and, you know, we were making something, but I don't know if you want to put this down to destiny or fate, but there was just a feeling inside both of us that there was a channel, there was a pathway that we needed to get on. And it was like we were working hard and we didn't necessarily know what it was that was there. But I remember we were sat down having a conversation, and Niall would turn around, he said, oh, he's got this friend who's doing medical cannabis out in South Africa, and we laughed and joked and like, oh yeah, medical cannabis, that would be cool, you know, one day we'll get into it. And then next thing you know, we've got a friend of ours who reaches out to us, this Israeli guy, Michael Zaza, and he tells us, you know, there was an opportunity to help bring medical cannabis into Europe, and did we know anybody in the UK or in Europe who was interested in working in medical cannabis? And in typical fashion, of course, we turned around and said yes. You know, we didn't know anybody, by the way, not a single soul. But we had a meeting, we got together, and we decided that, okay, do you know what? There's an opportunity here, because we looked, it was just 2018. We had a look at the scene. There was hardly any organizations, any companies doing this whatsoever. And, you know, we sat down in this room in your kitchen and we discussed, okay, how would we do this? Is there an opportunity? Is this a legit pathway? And pretty much like the drinks, it was like, what's the worst that could happen, you know? Let's give it a go. Nige, because we had been working together on these drinks, and of course you'd known Gabriel way before I'd even met Gabriel. What was it like for you coming in at that moment, you know, being next to us the whole time through Albie, through the divorces, helping him build his mum's house and everything, to a point where, you know, and I guess we'll touch on this as well, your mum wasn't exactly in the best headspace at the time, you know, and that again was something that we all had to bond together with and help each other. And you did a smashing job with the property now. It's honestly one of the best chill spots to go to. It is the most homely place. But yeah, tell us what it was like from you, man, because again, we never actually have a chance to sit down and go through this together and hear from each other's perspectives. We kind of just lived it, so we got on with it. But yeah, I really want to know, you know, you came in at that moment and all of these ideas were flourishing, and to be honest, you were doing well for yourself already, right? You know?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, it's really quite remarkable to sit here and listen to you guys talk about the drink and Albie and all of these different memories that, of course, have been such key instrumental moments in all of our journey. But first of all, like, I remember, like, back in the day when, I remember I was there when that, the guy from Cali was there talking about the drink.
Yeah.
I just loved seeing you boys with the drive and the passion to actually trying to do something. And for me, that was, I've always, obviously to see that in my boys that are just actually trying to do something. And there was a lot of people that maybe, whatever it was, go and do the secure thing, go and get yourself a normal job. And I've always been, someone who's, there's value in the uncomfortable. And just go and put yourselves out there and be uncomfortable. And I remember seeing, putting together the drink. I remember seeing you on the photo on the way back from Brighton, having so much CBD, you literally like, knocked out. Like. And I was just really proud, man. I was just like, fuck, man, that's just so cool.
That's my boy right there.
Yeah, exactly.
I passed out on the train. That's my boy.
But I obviously was proud of that, but I was proud of it all to see, what passion you were putting into it and trying to make something out of it. And then obviously when we did get together and, it was just like, we were just hustling, that was the thing, we'd come to a meeting and we'd have the drink and you'd have some other CBD products and everyone just loved the hustle. And, and I it platformed us to get to the next stage where we were able to, start to maybe take ourselves, a little bit seriously or let other people take ourselves seriously. And yeah, it is just remarkable to kind of sit here and talk about, where we've come from. But yeah, I the opportunity when you called me and said to me, hey, do you know how to get some medical cannabis? And like, we're going to give it a shot. Why not, right? I'll make a few phone calls. And I suppose I've always had a passion, like, a lot of us, for cannabis in general. And I was very lucky that my father's brother, so my uncle in Canada, my uncle in Canada, he invested in a few cannabis stocks and in the Canadian market. And I dabbled, he told me about it and I dabbled because obviously he knew that I was always had a little bit of a passion for cannabis. And I suppose that really kind of platformed me into, reading the likes of, Reddit weed stocks. And, I remember, back in the day when we were at Marley's and you were, even we were talking about just the old ideas. And I loved being there and seeing you guys kind of come up with different ideas. And I suppose ultimately when there was an opportunity and it was the universe that provided us an opportunity to get together as a three, it was something that just felt natural. There were definitely doubts, and I remember even before we went to Vegas, I didn't even necessarily, I was meant to be going to India as well after. I did go to India, but I was a little bit like, this is crazy. I can't go to India and then on to Vegas. So, but you guys did actually push me to get involved, and for that I'm, eternally grateful because, I don't think we would be, collectively where we are, without being that triangle that is constantly pushing each other. And as you say earlier, Gabriel, ultimately if one person isn't, on the top of their game, we know that someone else maybe isn't going to be on top of the game, but it's just going to, push us along to where we need to go. And who knows how far we can take it? Who knows where we are? But I think ultimately we just carry on going and see how far we can.
So here was that moment, right? We were sat in your kitchen, all three of us were together, and your uncle had told us, or had introduced us to Jose Enrique, shout out Jose, yeah, out in Canada, and told us about MJ Biz, and if you wanted to go and meet people in medical cannabis or in cannabis in general, MJ Biz in Vegas was the spot.
Wait,
right?
where was it?
MJ Biz in Vegas.
Yeah, we should go.
Yeah.
You're plugging them now.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out for some free tickets. And I remember sat in the kitchen and you were the humble boy that you always are. You were like, listen, I want to help you, but I don't want anything for it. Like, if there's anything I can do to help, great. But I don't know. Just being as humble as you usually are. And we all turned to each other and we were like, listen, someone is always going to be doing maybe a bit more than the other person. Maybe this person brings that opportunity. Maybe that person brings that. But at some stage along the line, we're all going to need each other. So I don't care about you being humble right now. You are in, this is it. And, we were formulating our first organization's name. All right, we're Cantourage now. But before that, we had a company. We're going to Vegas. Okay, we need to present ourselves to people. People need to see that we're active in the industry, right? And we came up with a name. And we were trying to figure out a name. And I think we settled on looking at our surnames and trying to make is it anagram? Is that the right?
Acronym.
Huh?
Acronym.
Acronym. I don't know what's an anagram. Move it around.
It's when the words are all jabbled.
Oh yeah. No, it definitely wasn't that. It was an acronym. So we got Newman, Ivers, QB, and then enterprise, and it came out with nice. And it was quite funny because we realised there was the nice guidance as well, right? So
Well, actually, it was after, but we were really. I think where it really stemmed from was Mr. Nice. You know, there was Howard Marks who, you know, throughout the 60s and 70s and probably 80s as well, was the largest hashish importer into the UK and Europe. And obviously, I think at the time it was quite funny. Niall, you were reading the book quite early on, and there was a photo of him on the front of it. And I just remember Ollie saying that there was a lot of similarities, that they looked like each other in that photo in that moment. Anyway, so
we can pull up a photo of that on the screen next to each other.
Nigel was called. Yeah, I think we were calling him Howard Marks at the time. So it was all just a kind of beautiful come together. And I remember then we started speaking to cannabis companies in the UK, and it was when we started speaking to some of the kind of the medical community, and they said, well, and our name was Nice Partners. And obviously then there's, you know, National Institute of Healthcare and Excellence, and they're called NICE. And obviously when you're going around speaking to these medical companies claiming to be NICE's partners, it could potentially be, you know, misconceived. But it didn't stop us, did it? To be fair, we didn't think, okay, let's go for a rebrand. We looked at it, they haven't got any trademarks anyway, let's go for it. So yeah, but it was definitely when we started engaging with first people, they're like, who are these NICE partners? And of course, naturally, you know, I think a few people still call us the nice guys, you know, because, you know, we are generally good people out here, you know, trying to do good things. And, you know, I think partnership's the only way that we're going to get to where we want to be in life. And, you know, I look back at, you know, all those times and still don't know how far we can take it. I certainly believe we can take it a lot further now after 4 years of going at it. And, yeah, really at this point it's, yeah, I think we can continually and have the confidence that regardless if we keep pushing, it's never going to be how we think it's going to pan out to be, but it's gonna pan out because we've got the potential, we've got the belief.
Shall we talk about Vegas for a second? Because
before we go on Vegas,
go on,
I think actually it kind of we talk about National Institute of Healthcare and Excellence. So National Institute of Healthcare and Excellence are the guys in the UK who yeah, they ultimately hold the keys to the kingdom when you talk about you know, treating medicines and seeing the therapeutic use. And I think it's really interesting because you know, we're all, I suppose, just talking about Albie's story and you know, I suppose a little bit about intention. And I think we don't know how far we could take it, and we still don't know how far we can take it, as we keep on saying. But there's a little bit of we want to be able to actually. It's very unique. A lot of markets, they don't necessarily they go to recreational quite quickly, and they don't necessarily understand the true therapeutic use of cannabis. And I think we have a really unique opportunity to being in the UK, where we have the National Institute of Healthcare and Excellence, and we pride ourselves on the best minds and the best universities to be able to potentially license alternative therapies. I think we're all pretty passionate that it isn't just, you know, Albies, you know, who are lucky enough that have liberal parents. You know, we really want to be able to see, you know, cannabis be used as a first-line treatment, potentially other alternative therapies down the line. But I think that is what the unique opportunity we have in the UK, how we can actually platform and empower healthcare practitioners to use cannabis in a therapeutic setting. Because we've all seen, yeah, we know how the power of it, and that's a beautiful thing that I know keeps me going every day, and I pinch myself.
So that is a direct invitation. Anyone from the National Institute of Healthcare and Excellence, come sit here, have a chat with us. But I think, you know, again, to echo that, Nige, I think it's a beautiful thing and a beautiful sentiment that, you know, we generally want to see long-term changes, you know, in the healthcare framework, where even now, you know, the fact that it is still so many hurdles that you've got to jump through in order to access, you know, a plant material that, you know, we're very fortunate to be in a situation that we can speak to patients on a daily basis. And I know that we've all kind of had just, yeah, I suppose just, you know, sort of jaw-dropping conversations with patients, just understanding how, you know, they start to, you know, kind of open up about their health journey and all these different ways that they've tried to find, you know, cures for their ailments. Not even just cures, but just something to make them feel better throughout the day. And they've just, you know, list off, and you know, you can see that, you know, the amount of medications they've gone through, the amount of different treatments they've gone through, and, you know, just the only reason that they've managed to find, you know, us as a business and cannabis as a treatment is because they're scouring the internet trying to think, okay, well, this doesn't work, so what can I try? And, you know, what are, you know, other people saying that suffer from these conditions? And I suppose, you know, we're in a fortunate situation that, you know, there is people out there that are willing to talk about things that are helping them, and, you know, generally about, you know, community as well from other people suffering. But, you know, we're struggling in the UK in terms of awareness, because, you know, general practitioners, you know, don't get behind it. And we know there's a few initiatives that are, you know, actively going on at the moment, trying to kind of, you know, push to be able to allow GPs to initiate cannabis prescriptions here in the UK. But again, there's no referrals from GP practices to private healthcare clinics, and, you know, it just becomes a situation where very few people know that medical cannabis is available in the UK. And, you know, there's all sorts of conversations that we have with, you know, cannabis peers and other groups out there that, again, pushing for the same kind of systematic changes. But at the end of the day, if it comes down to awareness, if people don't know about it, you know, how can we really do it? And, you know, it's things that at the moment what we're starting to see is that it really kind of has to be a bottom-up approach. You know, we're going to have to inspire enough patients to go out there and talk about how this is the only thing that generally does work for them. And, you know, as I said at the beginning, you know, we're very lucky that we get to kind of have those conversations firsthand. But yeah, I think we definitely don't want to recreate what's happened in other kind of global markets where they've gone from medical to recreational overnight. And all that ends up happening is, you know, you get patients that are left behind. You know, there's a lot of patients out there that need the support of a doctor, need the support of a clinic. You know, we know that we'd do anything for any of our patients, and the team that we've got, you know, in there, you know, making the gears and cogs come together all the same. And that's really kind of at the heart of the ethos, and I think something that a lot of our patients would vouch for as well, that they do genuinely feel that there's a real support network within Cantourage Clinic, that, you know, we're there to make sure that we can do what's in our power at the end of the day. And I know that we all sit there thinking we wish we could do more, but, you know, we're, you know, taking steps forward and, you know, trying to extend the kind of the level of support that we can offer.
No, it's a beautiful topic, and I guess to really sit back and think, okay, wow, we actually have all these patients under our care now, and we helped one life. You know, we saw what happened with Albie, and I guess that again was like a shotgun for us to just say, we are gonna, if we can spend our lives doing something that we're passionate about, and we get to wake up every day, spend every day with the people that we love, spend every day trying to help people. Honestly, I think we are one of the most lucky people in this entire planet to be able to say we do what we do every day. And, you know, even the people helping us with our podcast, Ed and the boys, they've been our friends for absolute years. We also live together, you know, and it really is a family affair. And it does get emotional, man, because you think, you know, you do get to see online, and, you know, we try and not get distracted by it so much, but the world is pretty fucked right now. And it always has been on the peripherals, but I guess now, because there's so much more media and there's so many more video cameras, everything is just captured a lot more. And yeah, you see everything constantly on social media. It's always put in front of your faces. And then we just take a moment to just step back and look around and be like, wow, I can't believe we get to do this every day, and we get to speak to patients whose lives we're actively out there trying to help. And, you know, they might not always feel that way, because, you know, we're not perfect, and you know, we do make mistakes, and there are ways that we're always trying to improve the clinic and improve the business. But as long as they know when they're speaking to us, they've got people out there who genuinely care for them and are going to work from 8 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night every day, week in, week out, without stop, to make sure that we can do something for them. Yeah, it is a beautiful thing. But, you know, you go back to intentions. Where are we going to take it? When we decided we were going to go to Vegas, we didn't know. And I just want to bring it up, because the reason I just want to mention it is it was just so completely audacious. It made absolutely zero sense to go out there and take whatever money we had in the CBD bank account.
Looking at the account, it's like, how much have we got? Okay, got that. Okay, how much are the flights? Okay,
Yeah,
that's that gone. Okay. How much hotel? That's that gone. Okay, so we've got some spending money. Look at it.
and it was literally that, because again, the other thing was, we just kind of like set up nice partners. We wanted to go out there with a name for ourselves, but we didn't have enough money to buy tickets to the conference, right? So we were going out to Vegas, and I can't remember who had told us, but they told us where the main parties were taking place. They were taking place at the Wynn and the Encore, and they said, look, get a hotel room in the Win on the days that the parties are happening, because that's where you're going to meet everybody anyway in the parties, and don't worry so much about the conference. So we took whatever budget we had, and we were there for like 5 days, but for the first 2 nights we stayed at the Win, because that was where all of the after parties were going to be, where we could meet everybody. So we thought, all right, at least fake it till you make it, you know. We've got this name, the Nice Partners. We're going to present ourselves as these like cannabis experts in Europe, there to help everybody bring their medications into Europe, and so we could distribute them to patients. And you know, we stayed in the hotel, and I remember we got invited to the Medifarm labs, who are an Australian and Canadian manufacturer who were making oils for patients. We got invited to their after party, and that's where, you know, we kind of presented ourselves as these people who are able to offer them opportunity to bring their services over into Europe, right? And we met a gentleman called Adam Miller, who shout out to Adam Miller. Honestly, one of the most inspiring people that we got to meet as well, and he really is a great voice in the industry, not just in cannabis but in psychedelics, mental health awareness, general great lifestyle. I know he's just had a kid as well recently with his wife, so yeah, congratulations on that. But it was meeting those boys at Medifarm Labs and telling them what we were doing, and having ourselves, you know, whatever budget we had to stay in the Win for those couple of days to meet those people. And you know, after the conference is finished, we went to this really cheap hotel. I can't remember, with whatever money we had left.
New York.
New York or something. Before Niall had to fly to India the next day, right? And go off on his journey to India, which we should all do one day, by the way. We definitely need to get out there. Yeah, please God. So in that moment in time, we had managed to go out there and portray ourselves. And I think I just want to go back to this intentions thing and this sort of delusions of grandeur, in the sense that we had convinced ourselves so much so that we were who we'd already we knew who we were going to be, if that makes sense. We already had this idea and this vision of who we were. So when we got there, we presented ourselves as that person, because we genuinely believed we were the types of people to be able to go out there and help bring medical cannabis over to Europe. And we'd already created that persona for us. And I think sometimes you just have to completely believe and visualize and put yourself in a position where you know it's a certainty. Like, we are these people. This is what we're doing now, and no one's going to tell us any different. Mm-hmm. So when we come back to the UK and we were able to bring the Medifarm Labs products over to Europe for the first time, we realized, oh my God, like, this is actually going to happen for us. We are now going to be able to start delivering cannabis to patients through other groups who are licensed, because we weren't licensed at the time to do anything. You know, we didn't have our WDAs, we weren't licensed with the Home Office, we weren't licensed with the CQC. But it was like, in that moment in time, almost like the vision had been painted and there was a direction for us to head, but we didn't know how far we were going to take it. And the craziest thing was, that was December 2019, right? So that was December 2019. In like January, February 2020, COVID happened. So we'd like painted this idea. We were going to come back. We were going to change the world. We were so gassed. We were ready to start. You know, we were working from the kitchen. And then, oh my God, the whole world has shut down. And
you boys have just got back from
Hong Kong.
We just come back from Hong Kong. Oh my gosh, because we went to the first CBD conference out there. Do you remember who we were sat with?
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy story, because I think we were still kind of chasing the same dreams, and I think Niall, you decided to drop out because you've just done a couple of weeks in India. So, okay, don't worry, don't worry. We'll go spend the last bit of money we got in Hong Kong. That's it. This is it now. This is it.
The final budget. You know, we had to make these deals that we were trying to do happen. That was it, right?
Yeah, and it was a crazy moment. Obviously, we had a good time out in Hong Kong. Amazing city. Obviously, shame what's going on there now, but is what it is. But I remember just sitting at the end of that, after that CBD conference, we got invited to come have dinner, and I remember sitting on the table, and obviously we're talking, meeting people, and we get back to the UK and going through business cards, trying to work out ways that we can, you know, kind of follow through with the opportunities and with the leads that we'd made. And a lot of it was to do with we were still obviously had the drink at the forefront of our mind, and a lot of it was to do with, you know, sourcing materials, you know, cheaper bottling, capping, all these types of things. How can we ensure that our margins get better? And I remember having that first phone call with a guy that we had quite a close evening with him, you know, drinking and enjoying some of the local cuisine, which wasn't that
There's a
enjoyable.
restaurant there called Holy Fuck. Now, I've got a photo of it as well. Please put this photo up on the screen now. There's us outside this restaurant, Holy Fuck, when we're going out there. But yeah,
With the PH.
Yeah, with the PH, exactly. I said it right, didn't I? But yeah, in Hong Kong, and then gone. So we were sat at home, and what happened?
We got back and we gave him a call and said, oh, it's Gabriel and Josh, how you doing? Good seeing. We want to pick up the conversation about, importing some of the bottles and the capping. And yeah, it seems to remember he just goes, well, have you not looked at the news? And I remember when we were out there at the time, obviously there was this, undertone of, coronavirus and, it's a repeat of SARS and all these types of things. And even still, for some bizarre reason, when these things are happening, you just think that it's going to be contained to one part of the world. But again, I think it shows, how different the world is even in 20 years. It's just things spread a lot quicker. You were talking about content, but it's not just content right now. Everything is has the ability to travel so much faster regardless of what it is. But and then we came back and lo and behold, it was lockdown within 2 months after. But of course, yeah, everyone that we sat down, and I hope this doesn't get us into trouble, but everyone that we sat down with was from Wuhan. So we were back here in January with after just sitting down and spending the evening with a room full of people that were from the epicenter of the pandemic. So yeah,
super spreaders,
super spreaders, patient
X,
patient X, exactly.
But so then we'd come back and COVID had started, and I remember we all had to stay in our houses, but we were still trying to build this idea of networking and being as connected to as many people as possible. Why? Because at the end of the day, that's what we were good at, right? Going out there, making connections, meeting people, and pulling the string. We always used to say, let's just pull the string and see where it takes us. Let's just keep pulling and pulling. And the first lockdown happened, and to be honest, I don't know about you guys, but I thought, fuck it, this is cool. We're gonna have 2-3 weeks of holiday, cool, locked in. Get the FIFA out, get the PlayStation out, chill at home with the missus, and go to the park, whatever, and it would be fun. 1 week went by, 2 weeks went by, and then you're kind of like, oh crap, they're now making us scared of this thing that we can't see, and all of a sudden it was a really weird time for everybody, I'm sure, because now you're scared of something that you can't see, and you're worried. You go see your friend, they're going to blow on you and you're going to die, Like, what it did to so many people, I can only imagine how tough it must have been for a lot of people's mental health and capacity, especially because, we were going through it as well. And I feel like we have a pretty strong mindset and a resilient framework to allow us to deal with tough situations. I mean, look what we had just gone through. And I remember looking at each other again, we're like, it's just another thing that we have to go through, just another one of those. So we've been there, like, I can't remember how long the first lockdown was, but, we were still trying to reach out to people. And I remember, at that time, Natalie, my girlfriend, she turned around and she said, think about what you're doing right now. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you're sat at home and you're sick of talking to me. I was like, I wouldn't say it like that. But she's like, no, but really, you're sat at home, think, all of the leaders of the businesses are all sat at home right now. They have never been more accessible in their entire lives. And to be honest, they probably just want to chat to some other people, right? Because, they've been with their family, kids, been stuck in a room for a month and a half. So let's reach out. And, it goes back to the bank account. We literally had like a few £100 left in the bank account, and we'd invested in LinkedIn Premium. Maybe that's another plug that we end up getting. we invested in LinkedIn Premium so we could reach out to everybody. And, it was kind of at the crossover time when Albie was going through his treatment as well, right? Because we were at your dad's house for Albie's birthday.
In the garden, just
in the garden.
Sorry,
we were all part of the same zone. I think we're all part of the same zone. And we were talking about we need an office space now. We need somewhere to work from during this time. Because I think the first window, or whatever you want to call it, they'd opened it up again, and you were allowed to be in different bubbles. And we'd gone over to the birthday party, and Craig, Gabriel's uncle, I was sat outside chatting to him, and we were talking about office space, and we were like, yeah, we'd love a big white office with glass windows where we could go and be creative and do stuff. And he runs a music agency, and obviously there was no music going on at the time there, so everyone was working from home. There was this office that he had that was open, and he said, well, boys, you know what to do, right? here's the keys, go and work from this place and start effectively going out and trying to do what we wanted to do, which was network with as many people as possible. But I think just before we'd moved into that office space, we saw an opportunity to miss, because we had a feeling there was another lockdown coming, right? I think that was on the peripherals. They were talking about it. So we decided we were going to go out to Spain and work from Spain, right? If I'm getting the timelines right. I mean, it was so long ago.
I think it was,
Was that after?
I think we did a couple months in the hat
We
factory.
did it a couple months in the hat factory first.
And
Yeah.
then and then there was there were talks of getting towards winter. There's going to be another lockdown.
Yeah, okay.
And
Yeah,
then,
no,
and
that
then
was
so
it,
then we
yeah.
would have got out of there and thought we don't want to do
When's
this.
Darby's birthday?
May.
May. So yeah, it's about right May till July. I think we spent in the
Yeah,
Hat
a
Factory.
few months.
And shout out to Craig and thank you very much for that. I suppose actually it's really interesting as you're talking about it. Is I honestly say it's lightly, but I think COVID was like all of these different points. It was really instrumental because I remember that summer we planned to go to Barcelona, we planned to go to Denmark, to all these conferences, and we just got back from Dublin just before that, that lockdown happened, and we were spending fortunes with money that we didn't have to be able to like go and meet these people just to be able to get into the industry. And I think it was, as you say, right, like literally a time where everyone was at home and suddenly we were allowed to reach out to all these people. And then we had this office that Craig had provided, and we were able to talk to these companies with a boardroom and suddenly look really professional. And they were like, "Hang on a second, is that background? Like what? Is that background?"
I think we'd make purpose of it. Like, if we'd had multiple calls with different groups, we'd make sure that we were in a different boardroom, a different conferencing room every time we spoke to them. So they'd be like, "What is this going on here?" But yeah, I do seem to remember everyone else was doing calls from their bedrooms with their messy wardrobes behind them, and we were in boardrooms and
kids running past them.
It was it, and it was honestly, don't say it lightly because I know obviously COVID, changed a lot of people's lives, and it wasn't easy. But I think for us, grateful to say that it was actually a beautiful period where we were able to kind of come together. We had all of that office space. We brought a whiteboard, and we were just, literally there was no one in the office, and in Camden, I remember walking through, through the markets. It was literally like ghost towns, and no one was there. So it was, a beautiful time where we were able to kind of come together and just, I suppose, get a little bit serious, right?
it was definitely a time to reset. I felt like I was definitely playing catch up all the time before COVID. I felt that things were progressing, and again, it's just an opportunity just to kind of reset and refocus. And I think that's exactly where you're going with it, and a chance for all of us to get together and think, hang on a sec, what have we done for the last 6 months? Well, we've gone to Vegas, we've gone to Hong Kong, we've gone to Dublin. Traveling is great. How's the bank balance doing? Appalling.
Not so good.
Appalling. Is there a way that we could do what we're trying to do here smarter? And I think that's, again, something that we die by now. There's working hard and there's working smart, and I think that was a real opportunity where, instead of spending thousands to go to these conferences, let's spend a couple £100 a month on a premium LinkedIn account, and we've just spent that whole time just relentlessly contacting every single cannabis company we could find, anyone that would have a conversation with us. And again, it was one of those things where, because there was 3 of us, we were spreading ourselves much wider. And I just remember every single day, and I remember working from the garden at Claremont and just sitting there under the tree with some birds, working with my mates.
Should be clear that's actual pictures.
Beautiful. If you heard the sounds from my gardens on calls, I'm very lucky that there's a beautiful willow tree in my garden that harboured lots of beautiful birds, different types of birds.
Those parakeets, there's hundreds of parakeets that just would fly around.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But I think actually it's everything that we did before COVID was so important, because if we hadn't have gone to Vegas and we didn't have Medifarm Labs behind us, or,
True.
we hadn't met Adam, or even the stuff that you guys were doing in the drink, like everything had really played a part in actually when COVID happened. We had already somewhat of a platform to be able to take it to the next stage. It's just wild to think, really.
Like, where are you going with it? Where are you going with it? So then, so we were there, we were working, and then the lockdown was going to finish. And that's when we were like, okay, cool, it's going to be winter time. Let's go and work from Spain because it would be nice and warm out there. So we decided we were going to go out there, and that's the outreach, because I think we were thinking, if a lockdown does happen again, at least we're in Europe and we can travel about and we can go and meet stuff, because that's what we were doing. We were setting up meetings, weren't we, to meet loads of people, and that's when we were reaching out to loads of people, and that's when you reached out to Patrick, Don Hoff, who had set up the OG Cantourage in Germany, and we'll get into that story in a minute as well. So we'd gone out there and we'd set up meetings to go to Barcelona, we set up meetings to go to Madrid, we'd set up meetings to go to Poland, we went to Germany, we went to Denmark, and while we were doing this European tour, people just couldn't believe these 3 crazy English guys were traveling around Europe, meeting during the height of a pandemic, and they were like, how are you even here? But they loved it, again, because they couldn't go anywhere, they had nobody to meet. And you spoke about Camden being a ghost town. Do you remember going around Barcelona? But it was a ghost town, and to be able to go and see all of these cities, which are usually full of thousands of people, and there not be a single soul midday, it was like being in this simulation of the world where we were the only avatars, and we were literally going about. And
it felt like the apocalypse.
Yeah, it literally did, just tumbleweed everywhere. And going to Amsterdam, I remember going to Amsterdam.
Wow, crazy, seeing everything was closed. All these coffee shops just closed.
Yeah, you just see like a few groups of English lads that are driving over there.
Oh yeah, they just driven over.
Got to Amsterdam, like, oh, everything's closed.
Yeah, they were like
sitting at home. It's like, what should we do, boys? Should we drive to Amsterdam? Get there, everything's closed,
mate. So then we were okay. So we went to Germany because. And this is how it kind of all really grows to the next step. And this is the point about pulling the string, right? We don't actually know where it was going to take us and what we needed to do to get to where we were. But we'd met Patrick. And for anyone who will meet Patrick or see videos of Patrick or get to know who he is as a character, he is a very special character, full of charisma. So we'd arranged to go and meet these guys in Cantourage, right? One of you want to just say what happened when we'd gone out to Germany and we'd driven there and got the speeding ticket?
We'd started before, definitely. Right?
What happened? So this is the thing. I can't even remember the train of events.
First lockdown, we were all sitting at our homes, right, and just reaching out to various different producers, and we'd basically platform Medifarm Labs. So the idea was we'd taken Medifarm Labs and we said, hey, we're going to be your European sales arm. And we're going to effectively help you build supply chains into Europe. And we met them in Vegas, and then we came home with Vegas without COVID hit, and we then were able to present ourselves during COVID as, I suppose, actually a global operation, because we had, 3 different offices listed on the website.
Yeah.
One in London, Gibraltar, and Canada.
Yeah.
Still do have 3 different offices.
And so we'd reached out to Patrick, one of many people, and they had just set up Cantourage in Germany. And Cantourage in Germany, they'd just done a press release on disrupting the monopoly for dronabinol. Dronabinol is a neat THC drug that they give to chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting, and also to help with appetite in general. It's actually somewhat of a different. It's almost like a licensed medication in Germany because it's got FDA approval, right? Or
because nabilone is what we call it in the UK, but people don't really prescribe it, because when we reached out to that oncology charity, they weren't really super au fait. But sorry, anyway, go on.
I guess it's the same, right? Because the compounding has to happen in the pharmacy, right? So I guess it's them creating their own version of nabilone. I think they call it with sesame. They combine it with sesame instead of MCT and these type of things. We'd have to speak to our German counterpart. They'll know exactly how it is.
But go on.
Remarkable individuals, and they had previously, Patrick and Florian had just come out of running Aurora Europe, and they had set up the first pharmaceutical wholesaler specific to cannabis-based medicines called Pedanios, and they set that up in 2016, and they ran that business, and there were some law changes with the herbal medicine law in Germany that happened in 2017, and then very quickly after that they got acquired by Aurora Europe. And Cantourage was basically their second entity, within the cannabis space, that they had disrupted dronabinol, but the bigger picture and the bigger idea, obviously, clearly, any global cannabis market is, has a leaning towards experienced cannabis users, and experienced cannabis users are used to flower. So the whole idea was to effectively take cannabis material into a drug manufacturing process that was similar to any other pharmaceuticals that happen today, right? It's no different to opium. Opium's grown, it's grown as a flower, and it goes into a drug manufacturing process to create codeine or any other these poppy-based painkillers.
Poppy-based.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the idea, and they told us, we need cultivators, and that is basically what we'd
been doing.
Yeah, do you remember we had that second call? Obviously, Niall, you had that first call with Patrick, and you were telling us a little bit about what they were doing, and obviously we'd spent all this time looking specifically for EU GMP producers, and you had that call with Patrick, and you saying, look, we've met this guy, really interesting cat, and a lot of it was about kind of genuine sort of trying to help patients from a patient perspective. It was very patient focused. It was all about, spend a lot of time looking at kind of, I suppose, the capitalist side of it, but at the end of the day, at the heart of it, it's more of a kind of the social element and the social impact that cannabis can have for people that are suffering. And when we had that call, it was us three and Patrick and Florin. They gave us that whole presentation about what Cantourage is and how the platform works, and we can provide access for these cultivators where it's not just about money. It's at the end of the day, if you're growing a really good product and that cultivator backs themselves to deliver, then we'll provide you the keys to the gates, and how can we make it work together. But I think just spending that time where we'd use that same tactic of having these different calls in different boardrooms, and all these cultivators, whether it be in Canada or Australia and South Africa, everywhere, we literally genuinely spoke to thousands of cannabis cultivators all around the world, and again used similar kind of I'd say tactics, but it was just about us having the luxury of being together in a room and having an office space to brainstorm and kind of map out early strategies. And I remember when Queely was working alongside us as well. I have to give Queely credit for all of the amazing things that he did, and again came to just be around us, just to see what was happening. And I'm sure we've got some early content and some early stuff that we can put out in a few years. Please God, everything goes well, of us just being in this room, just like, okay, how do we do this? But yeah, it was a crazy moment where we looked at each other, how do we get involved? And then I think, as always, the whole world had changed, the whole business world had changed, right? Everyone had gone from the age old going to have a drink with someone, meet someone in the flesh, to the world of Zoom. And I think for us it was we were having lots of very, very interesting conversations with a lot of groups and a lot of people that we had a lot of admiration for, a lot of respect. They all had already impressive track records in the cannabis industry. But as always, for us as young individuals, I think it's always a moment where it's like, okay, who do we really want to get close to? Who really is singing off the same song sheet as us? Who really can we fully integrate ourselves with? And who do we believe that we're onto the best business practices with? And who does it feel right to get closer to? Because as always, where we were going with it, we weren't sure, but we were having conversations of is it this group that we want to kind of represent in Europe? Is it this group? And how does it really make sense for us? And how can we add value? Because I think, as always, where do we add value to a business? And I think particularly in that particular moment, when we looking at Cantourage as a business, obviously they were very German focused. They had a big task on their hand. As Niall said, just were the first people to disrupt the dronabinol market. And then of course we knew that behind the scenes there's an even bigger project, brewing, and we were there, on the front line trying to find producers to help launch that platform. But I think the ability to have 3 young guys that can speak the international language and go out there and just speak a good game, and that's what that came down to, because it wasn't proven. It had never been done before. We're out there saying, you want to get access into Europe. So far only 5 companies have done it, and they've got a market cap of over 10 billion Canadian. But we can do it for you for just a few $100,000, a few $100,000. But yeah, I think again it comes back to that trip. There was talks about COVID coming back into play, and we knew that if we were on this island, we're stuck here, there's nothing that we can do. And very fortunate to be able to go and spend the time and spend the months down at your place in Spain, Cubes, and just have that ability to travel. We could drive to Portugal, we could drive to Spain, and we could go and see different partners. And again, cannabis was such a new thing at the time. This is 2020, so the industry only just really started picking up here in the UK and even in Europe. I think it was, it was still very, very early days, and still is today, let's be honest. But it was a time for us to go and look people in the eye, shake their hand, break some bread. We've always said that, that's really how you get to understand, does it feel right? Is it the right thing? And I think that, we had so many good dinners, good conversations with people. But, I think once we got to Berlin and, we met, that founding team of Cantourage GmbH, and we sat there and, we spent that time with them in the office, and it just felt really, really natural and really good. And it was certainly out of all those people that we saw in those kind of few weeks. And I think, maybe, how long were we on the road? To be honest with you, the timeline of that.
It was at least, it was about a month. Month.
That was in Germany alone, though. We were on the road. And
I think we spent 2 or 3 weeks in Germany, and then went up to Poland.
Denmark, and then it ended up in Portugal. You remind me of a really funny story of Portugal, actually, which was quite good. Go on, I want to after.
Please, I think we should carry on with the story on Cantourage, because I think Gabriel, you actually said something really interesting. Is that we were talking to all these different groups, and like who do we have a similar identity towards? And I think we can all thank Hoff. I think he's going to be a big part of our lives for many years to come, I'm sure. And a really impressive individual who also had a social enterprise, because he'd done very well at the previous entity, and I think a lot of it kind of sat very well with us. They talk about being patient focused, and they were really trying to be innovators and do something different, not just for for themselves, but ultimately for
very altruistic.
Exactly. But yeah, we should talk about that time, how when we first met them and went to the office and told them,
because we'd met them, we'd gone out very briefly because we were doing that tour, right? So I think we were saying that we'd had a dinner with them, and we'd had that lunch, which was very nice, and we were going to come back. And then the second time we'd come back to meet them again to really start to get the business relationship going. It was still the height of COVID, and I remember being in their first office that they were in. It's a hell of a lot smaller than what it is now, and we were sat in that first office, and as we were doing, we were chatting, we were getting to know each other, and you could tell these guys were different straight away, right? Because we walked into the room, they had these really cool bikes. Everyone in Berlin bikes everywhere because it's so flat, so they had these really cool bikes, they had these decks, they had these old school vinyls, and Norman was just spinning tracks.
Stormin' Norman.
Yeah, Stormin' Norman was just spinning tracks, and it was just pumping, and you could just tell straight away that there was this like community vibe. And I guess that's what cannabis does in general, right? It brings people together, even from whatever age you start understanding about cannabis, and you see that there's definitely a community feel there. So that would really echo. So anyway, we were in there, right? And I remember chatting away to Norman while you boys were chatting to Florin and Philip, and maybe we can put a little photo up of Norman. He's absolutely shredded. He's probably one of the most healthy guys I've ever known in my life. He runs everywhere, he cycles everywhere, and we were just chatting. Yeah, both at the same time.
Don't forget the swimming.
Don't forget the swimming. We're about to get to the swimming, and we were talking, and so we're living in North London at the moment, right? And Niall and Gabriel and myself, we live near Hampstead Heath, but Niall used to go all of the time to Hampstead Heath in the winter ponds, in the ponds in the winter, and go and cold dip, right? Maybe say a little bit about the cold dipping first, and then we'll get into what we did.
Wow, so, I mean, yeah, it's just Wim Hof, really. That is ultimately where it all started. I think Gabriel and I were living together many, many years back in a little flat in Swiss Cottage, and I'd just come out of quite an intense business partner relationship that I spent 10 years building, and we watched that Wim Hof documentary, Vice documentary, and I was like, wow, that's just crazy. How can you how can you do that? Like, how can you it's some of the experiences that we're talking about actually getting quite high, like on their experiences with breathing and cold water, and I think it just opened my mind, and that it stayed with us, right? And the moment I had the opportunity and the money, I went to go and spend some time out with Wim in Poland, and really saw the power of the cold. So came back, and that was it.
So you did it. You were addicted. From then, you were addicted straight away. And it was so funny because Niall would always try and convince us to go, and we go a couple of times. And honestly, guys, it was so hard to get in there, stripping pretty much naked, freezing, like walking to this pond, Yeah, one time. Right, I'm gonna tell you.
I don't think he's got any yet, has he?
No, so this is it. So the boys had all got in and it was great. And I was like, I remember going down the steps and I got to my ankles and all my bones froze instantly. I was like, no. So I got straight back out again and I did what I do best. Got the video camera and just filmed from behind the scenes.
I just remember Josh like just trying to move and just stuck to the ladder. Like, go in.
No, I was there doing breaststroke like he was in Capri or something, you know. So anyway, I'm chatting to Norman as you do, and I tell him about my experience of cold dipping. Did I tell him I got stuck on the first step? No, obviously not. Told him that I went in, which I technically did. I didn't say how far I went in. And he was like, amazing. We will go and do this tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, sure, we'll go tomorrow. Next thing I know, we're having a conversation and everybody's saying, okay, we're going to meet at 6 a.m. in this beautiful lake. And there's a 5-kilometer track right around the lake. So we're going to go and do a 5K run. And then we're going to go cold dipping in the water. And like, we're here to try and make this relationship work with these people. They're challenging us now. We were 27 at the time. These guys were, early 40s. And they were fit, but we had to stand up to it, right? There's no way that we can turn down this challenge now. Bearing in mind, I don't think we came out with any running gear or anything, right? So we popped to the shop down the road and bought whatever we could to go running. And we met them there the next morning. And they told us, yeah, listen, in Germany, we're going to do this run. We're going to go dip in the pool. And then when you dip in the lake, it's FKK. What was it? I can't even remember what it stands
FKK,
for.
Yeah,
it's FKK, whatever it stands for in German. But basically it means you have to go in naked, right? And we bought into the idea. We were like, look, listen, when in Rome, cool. So we were up for it, Anyway, it was 6:30 in the morning. It was freezing. Like, what else could be the worst that could happen? So we went on this 5K run, and it was great because we were really building a relationship with these guys. We got really deep while we were chatting at the same time, trying to act like we weren't getting out of breath because I don't think we were that fit at the time compared to what we do now. And these guys were running around this track with us. And I remember we got to the very end and there's a video. I think we can pull up the video on the camera somehow.
Don't pull up the video.
Yeah, we'll pull up the video. We'll pull up a video or, we'd finished the run and we'd all got there and we basically stripped naked and ran into this freezing cold lake in November, whatever month it was, I can't remember. And this group of old ladies who were on a hike had like walked past and saw the 5 skinny little white dudes just like freezing in this lake and they were all giggling away at us, And I remember Florian had filmed us going into the lake, and that was such a wholesome moment as well, because I don't think you can bond with many people like that in those instances. And that's when you sit and think, okay, I'm really onto something. When it feels really natural and everything starts to move together all at the same pace and everything feels pretty much like glue. That was when, for us, it was like, this is the future. There is something here that we need to build from, and we need to take it with both hands, and we need to not let off. We need to keep our foot on the gas. And we got taken back to his house and his wife, and they had the breakfast, and it was beautiful. We all sat there, all having breakfast, talking about the future, what we were going to do together, and how we were going to change the cannabis landscape. And we ended up pretty much doing what we said we were going to do at that table. So it was unfortunate. It was funny as well because they said, look, in traditional method, you're in Berlin. Listen, we would go out and we would party and we see how you guys get on and we build a relationship that way. But, we found another beautiful way of bonding and building a relationship from there. So I think when we came back from that trip and we sat down, our minds just went poof. There, we got the whiteboard out. We love that whiteboard. Still got it to today. Any idea that goes on that whiteboard, we make it happen. That was what we told ourselves. We were going to put it on there. We were going to manifest it, and we were going to make it happen. So, yeah, someone want to take over from that point, because there's just so many ways we could go with that story. But yeah, I just remember sitting back in the office and just putting up that whiteboard and being like, okay, what do we need to do, right? Because what is the UK landscape? We were already we were already finding these cultivators and introducing them and pitching them and selling them on the platform so they would be one of the first companies. And as with everything, they were like, have you done this before? No, but we know we can do it, right? And we had to be the guys to effectively break the boundaries in that industry and do something that no one had ever done before, and convincing a cultivator to come on board, spend whatever it cost them to get onto the platform that we were building and do that for the first time ever. Again, running a cultivation facility is tough, right? It's not the easiest. So managing to have that conversation and then deciding, okay, look, we're going to bring on cultivators to the platform, but the UK in itself, like we'd seen, the reason we got into it in the first place was because of Albie and the children, and it really was the children who had changed the law and the framework in 2018, you know, with Alfie and with Hannah and with Billy Cadwell and his mother. And that was for us, okay, now we're in the UK, we live in the UK, we need to set it up, but what do we want to set up, you know? There are so many options. Do we need to do a clinic? Are we going to do a pharmacy? Are we going to be a wholesaler and importer from Germany? Like, what do we need to do? And also, how do we do it? Because no one's ever done it before. We never done it before, and it wasn't like there was this guide online. So,
Well,
funny you should say that.
I mean, I think you touched on a few amazing things, and yeah, the Germans, I think, you know, they gave us that inspiration that actually, I remember that even that breakfast, you know, I think Florian was, you know, he's an amazing character, and he really, you know, definitely tries to get the best out of people and push people. And, you know, these are the guys that had done it in Germany, and they didn't, you know, they didn't know how to do it. So, you know, you talk about not being a guide, they're actually, you know, like, amazingly enough, like, yeah, you just search these things online, right? And we kind of came back, and we, of course, we wanted to help build the platform, but you know, when you talk about the UK, it was like, well, you know, how difficult actually is it? You know, like, let's just do some reading and try and work out what needs to be done. And kind of did, you know, yeah, the internet kind of gave us a guide, right, of what to put
100%.
together.
No, I remember that was in November, and obviously we had that whole presentation that we gave about what we think we can deliver in the UK. And then in December, if you remember, through Christmas, we were in the office and we wrote that business plan, and we were doing all that kind of analysis of where could we add value into the UK market? What is again, you know, we're in a situation now where not one medical cannabis framework is the same worldwide. You know, every framework is different. So, you know, how do you kind of structure something where you know that it will generally be able to penetrate the market that we have here in the UK? And yeah, we came to that conclusion whilst, you know, there was a few times that we scribbled that one. I said, no, we don't want to do that. Oh, actually, but we have to do that. You know, so again, it was that, you know, it was that exploratory sessions that we had. And I think, again, just the ability to put it down onto paper. You know, a lot of people talk about it. You know, if you can put down what's going through your mind onto paper, and how can we share our ideas, and how can we really kind of map out what are the things that we should put into play, and how can we extend, you know, the sales channels that we've been developing in Germany since, I guess we met them in March. That was in, so that was, you know, been 7 or 8 months that we've been closely working with Cantourage and building that platform. But you know, the next step is, you know, how can we show that these cultivators is not just about one market, it's about dual markets, multiple markets, and, you know, really kind of position ourselves. And it goes back to that conversation that we had, you know, when we were talking about, you know, what could nice partners be, what could Cantourage be, and remember Florian say, you know, shouldn't be looking at the kind of the other groups in the UK, you should be looking at the Auroras and the Tilrays, you know, they really just kind of think bigger, guys, you know, because at the end of the day, when you have an opportunity that you're involved in something whilst it's still so nascent, it just means that there's more opportunity. It means, okay, there's a lot more chance for it to go wrong as well. I suppose that is also the case, because nothing is certain. There's nothing that's, you know, genuinely established in the industry thus far. But again, it kind of gives us a blank canvas for us to go and really map out what we think would make a difference in the market. And I think, you know, you look at it all the time, you know, we're one of the very few groups in the UK that is genuinely started up from scratch to here, that is a licensed wholesaler and importer, that does have, you know, a CQC registered clinic, and does also have a you know, a serious USP. You know, these supply chains that we spent 2 years building and all now starting to come to market. And, you know, we've all had an exciting weekend on Reddit, seeing the amazing reviews from some of the products that we're launching at the moment, and we know it's just the beginning. But, you know, having the ability to have kind of this powerhouse of product sitting, you know, just on the end of our doorstep, you know, it's one van door to door over a few days that deliver us, you know, products to get into the hands of patients. And, you know, I think that being able to influence the market through the clinic and being able to make sure that we're not reliant on anyone else, you know, anything that we want to do in this industry, we do it ourselves. And that's also very powerful, because at the end of the day, you know, makers of your own destiny. And it's certainly, it's something that we do have to pinch. I think you said it to us, Nigel, only a few months ago, when you look at, you know, the UK industry, lots of people have got one part of the supply chain, but we genuinely have the ability to influence at all stages, and that was just through, again, whether it's delusional or just belief. I think it was just when we put together that business plan, we knew that we had the ability to do it, and it took us best part of 2 years to get all those licenses, and we've been operating for 15, 16 months to date. And we just know that we're just getting started, which is the most exciting part.
Yeah, to be in a position now where we've got our own medications in the market, and now we're going to start building a better, as we say, ecosystem, right? And we want that real patient-centric view for what we're trying to deliver to patients, and it's always what we talk about is that positive feedback loop, right?
Indeed.
The positive feedback loop for the patients. And we're here, and we're not stopping, and we're not slowing down, and we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think positive feedback loop, we talk about it like we there's many different stakeholders in the market, right? And it's not, patients obviously need to be at the heart of the intentions and what you're trying to build, but there's also the regulator that needs to have a good experience, right? And we really want to be a group in the UK that allows the regulator to have a positive experience that will in turn ultimately open things up to be able to create a network effect. Cannabis in the UK, we say we've got 20,000 patients, a population of 70 million, it's nothing, right? It is really, really nothing. And everyone talks about how the UK, should be in the millions of patients, in a few years' time, but really ultimately they should be at a couple 100,000 today, and we're not. And what are the reasons that we're not? And I think you were touching on the quality. I think it kind of comes back to that feedback, right? People haven't been having a good experience. So how can we ensure that we're not going to get it right all the time, but how can we ensure that we are, constantly getting better, improving to be able to provide a positive feedback loop for whether it be a patient, a pharmacy, a clinic, and of course, or very importantly, the regulator as well, to ensure that we can actually build a sustainable ecosystem that creates, an awesome sector.
Happy patients.
Yeah, but I think that's also where, we look back at it now. I think, there's been a few times where we thought we knew what is the right kind of pathway forward. What do we need to go and develop? What do we need to invest in? Is it personnel? Is it tech? Is it, how can we improve the experience of all the stakeholders, not just us, not just patients, not just the regulators, but everyone that has, an influence into getting products to patients. And, again, we like to think now we know what we want to build, we know what we want to do, and we know that, if we, apply some focus into different areas of the business as it is today, that, it can push it forward, and it can, make the process easier, because at the end of the day there is a lot of red tape behind the scenes. There is a lot of documenting that needs to take place, and we are dealing with controlled drugs, so there's just so many different touch points within that supply chain behind the scenes, and at the end of the day it ends up, how can we make sure that patients get hold of their products as soon as possible? I think that's the most amazing thing. It's medication. It's how can we ensure that if they're requesting more medication, how can we get it to there in days and hopefully soon hours as well? And I think there's ways to do it. It's not going to happen overnight. But there's definitely the foundations that we know between us, that there's some very, very simple fixes that will really kind of push forward and get medication to patients quicker.
The truth is, we are still competing with the illicit market in terms of providing a service.
Good service.
Yeah. And that is the challenge, right? Because you could message your dealer or whoever it is, and you can get your cannabis delivered to you same day, no problem. You have a menu with all of these different products, and it's all still quite recreational, but still, if patients want to use it for their medication, they're going to choose instant relief over having to wait longer. And these are some of the things that we have to go up against. All right, fine, you might get it quicker, but in a medical framework, that all of the products come with certificates of conformity and analysis. You can see where they came from. In order to be a medical cannabis product, it needs to have gone through a certain level of specification. That's including pesticides, that's including the heavy metals, the fertilizers you use. So we are bringing a clean and more natural product onto the market for these patients to be able to participate in their pain relief or whatever it is that they're using medical cannabis for. And we still have that challenge that we have to go up against. And right, in an ideal world, we can deliver next day delivery, but you're still using wet signature prescriptions, whereas the whole industry for medical is electronic prescriptions. So that's another barrier to entry, which is meaning that it's taking a little bit longer for the doctor to write the prescription, to send it to the pharmacy. Then you got to get the medication once the prescription's at the pharmacy to the pharmacy, because you can't do it beforehand and all sorts. So now, again, it's like, okay, how can we keep refining this to make sure that we're giving a much more transparent service to patients? Because it really is as simple as, where's my medication? How long is it going to get to me? Where's my information to be able to make payment for it? Where's my tracking information? And if we can help just provide a much cleaner service, and we are working on it, and we're getting there, we will help generate that positive feedback loop, because it all comes down to this. Medical cannabis in general, the community feel, it's all word of mouth. You know, people have a great experience, they talk about it. They want to bring people onto their same journey. You know, if they feel like they're having an amazing experience and their condition is being treated and looked after, and they've got a great relationship with the clinic and a great relationship with the doctors, they're going to want to pass that experience onto their friends or family members who are also going through that same pain and that same struggle, and knowing that, okay, you are now actively in the legal framework, you are not committing a crime. You don't have to worry about losing your job. You don't have to worry about losing your license or not being able to go and participate in normal activities with your family, for fear that if you do get stopped, you're now going to have this name against you in a criminal sense. So yeah, we are constantly pushing, and we will keep getting there to a point where you do have a seamless service. So please bear with us while we do it, but we appreciate the love and the patience that we get from you guys. So yeah, is there anything else that we want to say?
I think just to, I suppose actually we talk about like what has potentially got us, you know, as far as we've got. And for me, actually, reading this book at the moment, and reading on the car on the way up here, growth mindset, and I think they're comparing actually what a fixed mindset is to a growth mindset. I think all of it is actually, we have like subconsciously along the way just been about learning, right? And we're nowhere near experts, and it probably feeds into the fact that maybe sometimes our experience for patients isn't where we want it to be, but we are learning and we are growing. And just the ability to, we know that we have to make mistakes along the way, but as long as we can learn from those mistakes and carry on pushing forward to get to where we want to go to, which ultimately we want to see medical cannabis be used as a first line treatment across healthcare. It will take a good amount of time for that to happen, because obviously we pride ourselves on medicines being licensed under a certain way, and we need to have data and to support clinical decision making. But I think if we can move forward with groups around us and individuals and partners, right, to be able to facilitate providing the regulators and all stakeholders what they need. And if we stay with that intention around patients, then I think
we'll make it happen.
Yeah,
we'll make it happen. Beautiful, boys. It's been an absolute
pleasure. Next time we'll map out. So we're going to do these 12 episodes. Get together and really kind of home in on something that we've kind of really led the charge by. And when we were, again, it goes back to where can we add value. We know that lifestyle is very important in terms of getting people, even if it's just an extra 10% back into their lifestyle from whatever they're suffering from. So we're going to do a little series kind of diving into the 12 principles of wellness and talking about love, spirituality, breathing techniques. Hopefully Niall, you can find a special guest, hint, whim. But yeah, we definitely want to kind of, it's good to sit here, and always a pleasure to sit with you boys and kind of reminisce and talk about some of the old stuff. But I think for us, we really want to make sure that we can continue to provoke some thoughts and really kind of push out, and we want to dive into all sorts of different alternative medicines and really talk about lifestyle, and in particularly how can you get high on health. I think because it's
that's the name of the podcast.
Beautiful terminology where it can be read in so many different ways, but we're going to start off kicking off into 12 principles of wellness and bringing on some guests and talking about what does everyone do to make themselves feel good, right? I think that's what it's all about.
And I think also part of it is like we want to open ourselves up to the community now, so they can see who are the people pulling the strings and running the industry, which is ultimately delivering them their medication. And we want to be an open book. We want to be transparent. We are open to questions. We are open to listening to patients who have any feedback for us on how they think we can help improve the service and improve the industry. And that's how we want to be different, right? Because I feel like it's still very very much closed off. You know, there isn't so much openness behind the people who are running the different clinics or people who are running the different importers and wholesalers. And ultimately, we are going to be the ones who have the sway with the regulators, and we're going to be the ones who are able to open up those communication channels. And why are we doing it? We're doing it on behalf of the patients. So yeah, I hope this is the start of something beautiful where, yeah, you know, whatever we can do for you guys, we will continue to do. So please feel free to reach out however you wish to, and we will be there to help. And yeah, this is the start of something beautiful. So thank you, boys. It's been great to go down memory lane again. And yeah, it's going to be a hell of a season, that's for sure.
Beautiful.
Love it, man. Let's rock and roll.